All right, let's get right into it. You've probably seen those lists of the top AI companies, right? They've got all the usual suspects. But today, we're going to tear those lists up because they're missing the real story about where the power in AI actually is.
Yeah, I know. That's a pretty bold statement, but stick with me here, because it's true. Most of those lists you see are just lazy rankings based on stock prices. They completely miss the huge, seismic power plays happening just underneath the surface.
So here's the deal. We're throwing out market cap. We're ignoring the latest PR fluff. We're going to look at this through a new lens: control. Who actually owns the core infrastructure? Who has their hands on the levers of the entire AI value chain? In other words, who's really in charge?
What's happening right now isn't just some friendly competition. This is an all-out capital war for dominance. And if you're a CTO, a product manager, or an engineer, you're asking yourself, where do I place my bets for the next 5 years? Because the entire tech stack is being rewritten right now by the players we're about to break down. So, to really get a handle on this war, we need a new way of looking at it. Forget the old metrics. The real power struggle in AI, it's happening on 3 key battlegrounds. Okay, so front number 1, compute. This is the bedrock, the raw silicon, the actual chips that make everything else possible. Then you've got the models. This is the brain, right? The intelligence itself. Think GPT, think Claude. And the third front is distribution. How do you actually get this intelligence into the hands of customers? Is it through the cloud, through enterprise software? You get the idea. And to win this war, you've got to own at least one of these fronts. So let's start at the very bottom of that pyramid, the absolute foundation. And really, there's only one company here. They're playing a completely different game from everyone else.
And that company is, of course, NVIDIA. Look, NVIDIA isn't just an AI company. It is the physical ground that the entire AI world is built on. The analogy is perfect. If AI is this massive global transportation boom, NVIDIA is the only company refining the oil. I mean, every single major model you've ever heard of was trained on their chips. This isn't competition, it's dependency.
And their power, it's not just about having the best hardware. Oh no. Their real secret weapon, their giant unbreachable moat, is their CUDA software. It's a programming platform that is so dominant, so sticky, that developers are basically locked into their ecosystem. Now that's great for guaranteeing revenue, but it also paints a massive antitrust target right on their back. Okay, so if NVIDIA is the sole oil refiner, who's buying all that oil? Well, that brings us to Tier 2, the cloud integrators. These are the household names, the giants who have all the customers, but here's the catch. They are fundamentally dependent on Tier 1 for their supply of chips. In a way, they're just glorified resellers of NVIDIA's power. And what's fascinating here is how each of the big 3 is fighting this war with a totally different playbook. First, Microsoft. They made an absolutely genius move by investing in OpenAI, and now they're jamming AI copilots into every product they own to drive people to Azure. Then you've got Google. Remember, they invented a lot of this tech. They're trying to break their NVIDIA addiction by building their own custom chips, the TPUs. And then there's Amazon, playing the classic AWS long game. Be the neutral everything store where you can use any model you want. They just want to be the landlord, collecting the rent. All right, let's move up the stack. Now we get to the really exciting part. The companies actually building the incredible models and apps that are changing the world. These are the geniuses, the innovators. But, and this is a huge but, you have to remember every single one of them relies on the compute and distribution owned by those top 2 tiers. First up, obviously, OpenAI. They literally set the benchmark for the entire industry with ChatGPT. They're the poster child, the pure-play AI company. But their structural weakness is crystal clear. They live on Microsoft's cloud, and they run on NVIDIA's chips. Now, as a fascinating contrast to OpenAI's move fast and break things approach, you have Anthropic. These guys were literally the safety leaders who left OpenAI. Their whole game is safety, using this constitutional AI framework. And that makes their models, like Claude, super attractive to industries that can't afford screw-ups. We're talking finance, healthcare, legal. So while OpenAI and Anthropic are building these closed-off walled garden models, Meta just decided to flip the whole board over. When they released their Llama models for free, that wasn't just some academic exercise. It was a strategic, almost political attack. They were directly trying to kneecap their competitor's business model and empower a whole open-source community in the process. But hey, this AI war, it's not all just about chatbots that write poetry. Tesla is fighting this battle in the real physical world. And you could argue they're tackling the hardest problem of all, physical autonomy. From full self-driving to the Optimus robot, they're focused on making AI perceive and act in the messy real world,
which means understanding physics, not just language. And speaking of high stakes in the real world, there's Palantir. They've carved out their own impenetrable fortress as the AI operating system for organizations where failure is simply not an option. We're talking governments, intelligence agencies, huge industrial companies that use AI to make decisive life-or-death calls. But here's the dirty little secret of AI. It doesn't matter if you're a spy agency or a chatbot, none of it works if your data is garbage. And that is where Databricks comes in. They tackle the really unsexy but absolutely vital problem of data quality. You can have the world's best model, but if you feed it a mess, you're going to get a mess back. Databricks builds the plumbing that gets chaotic enterprise data ready for AI. All right, so we've met the players on the board. We've got the compute king, we have the big cloud integrators, and we've got the brilliant innovators. So now, let's pull the camera back and look at the whole picture. Let's see what the real power structure of this industry actually is. And this right here, this is probably the single most important takeaway. For all the talk about model safety and AI hallucinations, the single biggest, most tangible risk for any company in this space is just getting their hands on enough GPUs. Access to hardware is the #1 bottleneck. And this chart just lays it all out, crystal clear. This is the new reality. At the very bottom, the foundation of everything, you have one company, NVIDIA, controlling the compute. In the middle, you have the cloud providers, who are basically just buying that compute in bulk and renting it out. And then way up at the top, you have everybody else, all the amazing model builders and app developers, all of them fundamentally dependent on the 2 layers below them. And this structure has huge consequences. It creates an oligopoly. The insane price of GPUs acts like a hidden tax on the entire industry, which means that only companies with billions of dollars to spend on hardware can truly compete at the frontier of AI research. That's the price of admission.
So, where does this all lead? Well, it seems pretty clear. The winners of the next phase of this AI war will be the companies that find a way to escape this bottleneck. Whether that's by building their own custom chips like Google or by creating hyper-efficient models like Meta's Llama, any successful AI strategy has to have an answer for the hardware problem.
And that brings it all back to you. I want you to take this question back to your team. As AI moves from chatbots to truly autonomous agents, what is the single biggest thing holding you back? Is it the sheer cost of compute, the talent to build, or the quality of your data? Figure that out, and you'll know exactly which of these companies you really need to be paying attention to.